Hi, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to sit here and discuss our little Julian. I know we kind of briefly talked after school, but like I said, thank you for making the time out of your day to sit down so we can discuss him. He is truly such a wonderful kid. He is very silly, and I'm very grateful that I was able to be his first grade teacher this year. Okay, so I just want to let you guys know so you guys aren't intimidated at all. I know that there's a lot of information that I'm going to show you on the screen, but I will do my best to simplify everything and just feel free to stop me in my tracks if I'm going too fast or you don't understand anything, and I will definitely be able to clarify that with you. And it kind of helped me stay on pace. And to discuss our little Julian, I have a little notepad right here to keep me on track. So, for instance, I just wanted to go ahead and talk with you about the behavioral concern that I'm seeing in class. I know we briefly discussed it after school, but mainly I want to break it into little goals and just kind of talk about one of the things I've seen him struggle with the most, which is calling out during instruction instead of raising his hand. This is very common in first grade, but I know that once we are able to break down the habit and kind of get him into a routine of raising his hand, I know he will surely excel in second grade. So, my goal that I have for him is that Julian will be able to raise his hand before speaking during whole group instruction. So to kind of go over, I will be showing you an ABC data collection chart, and I will be showing you some of the charts that I implemented that I think will be super beneficial for Julian in the classroom. Okay, so I just kind of want to start off with the strengths. This is not a meeting that where I'm going to be negative and just bash our little Julian. He is truly such an enthusiastic, curious, and he's always eager to participate. But I just want to share some information about a behavior goal that we've been working on and discuss how you and your guys' selves, how we can better support him together in the classroom. So, over the past few weeks, I've been collecting data during our group lessons as a class, and then specifically, I tracked how Julian called out without raising his hand and how often he used the expected classroom behavior, such as raising his hand before speaking. So, to kind of show you this data that I have right here, it's called an ABC data collection chart. So, to simplify that, I know that sounds really intimidating. So, this is just an average day out of the week. I think this was probably on a Tuesday. So, for my chart, I have timestamps, the context, so where this took place, what was going on, what happened before, typically the activity on when the behavior started to arise, the behavior of interest as defined, so what happened during that activity, and the consequences after. So basically, what did I do to kind of redirect this behavior? So to kind of break it up, so for 8:10, we just arrived in school. We begin our morning meeting on the carpet. This is a very consistent sorry, I'm blanking right now. Consistent thing that we do in the classroom. All the students come in, they greet me at the door, they put their lunch boxes away, and they come to the carpet and we do our morning meeting. So from Julian, so for instance, I asked students about the weather and the calendar. We sing that every single day. And during this activity, Julian began to blurt out. He mentioned that he was feeling a little bit sad this morning and immediately began to follow up that comment with faces and with silly faces and just laughing with his peers among him. So, to kind of redirect this behavior, I acknowledge that he's feeling down. I asked him, what can I do for him? But still, I'm trying to stay on track to make sure that I don't lose the rest of my other students. So at 8:25, we begin our U-Fly, which is our language arts. So it is, once again, a whole group instruction on the carpet. So I have all my students in their designated carpet space. So I'm going through the U-Fly interactive slideshow. And then I see that Julian is beginning to call peers' names out, and he starts making silly noises during instruction. I have noticed that a lot of his friends are in the classroom, so I feel that this might be why he blurts out his peers' names. But to combat this, I repeated the instructions during U-Fly and I gave him a little bit of redirection. So at 9:05, we begin to transition to our desk. We do our U-Fly worksheets, so all the students are now watching myself on the hover cam giving directions. And during this, I noticed that Julian got up out of his seat. He walked to the library corner to grab a book instead of following along with the assignment. So once again, to redirect this behavior, I asked Julian if he can nicely go back to his seat, and I restated the task for him. I have seen that Julian does feel a lot safer when he is, or more comfortable, I should say, when he is in the library corner. But I am a little concerned that he might be using that because he doesn't want to do his work. But like I said, all the things that I'm seeing, it's every day is different. It's first grade. So at 9:30, I do small group centers for language arts. I'm directing the students to different centers. I noticed that Julian is running around the classroom and talking to peers instead of going to his assigned station. So I went next to Julian to kind of provide proximity to say, "Hey Julian, Mr. Ann is watching you. Please stay on task. You are such a good student." And I'm giving him verbal prompts to please remain in his seat. So at 10:15, we have a math lesson on the carpet. This is a little bit after recess, so I introduced a new topic of time and money, and Julian began to blurt out the answers, laughing, being silly with peers. So to combat this, I acknowledge his enthusiasm, his curiosity to answer, but I did remind him of class expectations, such as raising your hand if you would like Mr. Ann to call on you. At 10:40, we did Chromebook time independently. So students are all on their Chromebooks at their desks. They all have their headphones on. This is a time where the volume level is on a 0. That is absolutely no talking, or it can be on a 1. If students have a question and they're allowed to whisper. So Julian begins to sing a song and tap his pencil on the desk instead of doing his work quietly. So once again, I redirected the behavior and I offered Julian support to get on the assigned program for Chromebooks. I asked if he would like to go to the carpet maybe, or if he would like to sit by me. He chose to sit at his desk. So yeah, at 12, this is after lunch, 15 minutes after lunch. So I always play read out loud on the projector. The students gather on the carpet for read out loud, and Julian gets up and moves to the reset corner, which is also where the library's at. So it is a popular place for Julian without the teacher permission. So I reminded Julian of appropriate word choice, or sorry, I allowed a brief break because I know after lunch it kind of takes a lot out of them. And then I redirected Julian to come back to the carpet with his peers. At 1, we had PE time. So students are all outside for PE, all the first grade classes. And I noticed that Julian is screaming on the playground, making inappropriate noises. So I reminded Julian of appropriate word choice and I redirected his behavior. Lastly, at 1:30, we do an end of the day procedure. We get everything out of our cubby. We get our backpacks, our lunch boxes, and we clean up the classroom. So all the students are cleaning up, packing to go home. They're being dismissed by table. So instead of helping peers, Julian is in the reset corner, laying down, and I go over there to see what's going on, to see if he needs any support, if he's feeling okay. And I just told him, Julian, hey, you need to be a good friend. You need to help out your peers. And that seemed to help a lot. So like I said, I know this was a lot to go over, but basically from all this, what I pulled is that I've noticed that Julian is a very energetic kid, but kind of also on my part, this was really good to see because I do feel that the constant redirection that I do, I feel that it hasn't been beneficial for Julian, so I'm trying out different things to see what gets him engaged with the lesson program. So I will definitely try to alter my approaches with Julian as the time goes on. Did Before I move on, did you guys have any questions that I can go over or clarify for you? Or does everything make sense on my part? Nope. Okay, cool. I am going to move on to my next topic, which is basically going to Sorry, Okay, it is basically going to be a behavior data collection. So this data was collected within a 2 week span. So how I did it is that I recorded it the number of times a day that he called out and the number of times that he raised his hand. So for instance, day one, which would be Monday, the start of a school week. So Mondays are always a little rough with these first graders. So Monday, he called out 14 times, rose his hand two. Tuesday, 15, rose his hand two. Um, Tuesday, Wednesday, rose his hand 12, or called out 12, rose his hand three. Thursday, called out 13, rose his hand three. Friday, called out 10, rose his hand four. And then moving on to Monday of the following week, on Monday, he called out 12 times. This is during the whole entire school day, not a specific time period. And then he rose his hand four times. On Tuesday, he called out nine times during the day. He rose his hand five times. On Wednesday, he rose his hands, or he called out seven times and rose his hand six times. On Thursday, he called out six times, rose his hand five times, and on Friday, he called out five times and rose his hand four times. So as you can see, the chart is gradually declining, which is super good because, like I said, I've been trying out different behavioral methods with Julian, and I do feel like the methods that I implemented have made a significant impact with him, considering that the data that I collected has been pretty good if the behavior's going down. So just to kind of put things visually, I just wanted to show you guys, but like I said, if any of this looks confusing or you guys have any questions, just please let me know and I will clarify anything for you. So I'm just going to leave this here for a couple more seconds so you guys are able to see the data. Okay, perfect. I am going to move on to my next and last thing that I'm going to talk about. Hopefully, I don't take up too much of your time. So, these are all things that I have been implementing in the classroom for Julian to try to combat this behavior of calling out during instruction instead of raising his hand. So, for instance, I have implemented a behavior chart. So this behavior chart, it is not a standard one where Julian is given feedback Monday through Friday. So basically, to kind of explain this, Julian is very obsessed with galaxies, Mario Galaxy. He loves anything space. So I wanted to make it visually appealing for Julian so that he feels like he's doing a good job in the classroom. So the goal that I have is that I will raise my hand during instruction. So I will have this on a clipboard, and whenever Julian raises his hand in class, he will get a star. So these stars cannot be taken away. Like I said, he can earn these stars during a week. He can earn these stars during a couple of days. It doesn't really matter. When he does reach the full 5 stars, we can give him a reward from Miss Duran's reward box. I can allow him to pick a book for the read aloud, or Mom, I know that you guys are very close. I can also give you a call if you feel comfortable with that, with Julian, and we can tell you together how good he's been doing in class. I know he would really love that. I noticed that he does thrive off of verbal praise. So I think you would enjoy that a lot. But just to kind of show you, so I would, when Julian accomplishes that goal, I will let him put the star on the sticky himself, and then yeah, and then we'll move on from there. And then also, I wanted to implement class jobs. So last week, Julian was actually the line leader. He took very much pride in that. He absolutely loved that. Um, so these are kind of a few examples of the class jobs that I have. So he can be a door opener, he can be a paper passer, a cleanup crew, a line leader. I noticed that he does need to be up and moving, and he struggles with focusing on assignment for far too long. So I wanted to do something where it's interactive and he remains engaged, but also feels like he is doing something to receive the praise. Because like I said, when I do give him praise, he does do good and he does do the classroom expectations, like I said, raising his hand, etc. Um, so yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you some examples that I've been doing. So I started implementing these about 2 weeks ago. So I implemented these and also did my data collection chart. So as you saw the chart from the last slide, how it gradually went down. So I was using these behavioral strategies within that 2 week span of when I collected data. So I do feel that these two things are working. But like I said, I will keep trying new things with Julian and see what works best. But I do feel like this is very good for now. And then to kind of go on, so in all, to kind of give you three strategies that I am doing to help Julian be successful in the classroom. And my end goal is to prepare him to transition onto second grade. So, for instance, we'll be using the positive reinforcement chart through his behavior chart, which is the I will raise my hand during instruction. So each time he raises his hand before speaking, he'll earn a star. Once he earns 5 stars, like I said, he will receive a small classroom reward, such as choosing a book for read out loud or calling mom. If you are on board with that, just let me know. Strategy number two would be some pre-verbal corrections. So Julian and I have made up a little hand signal. So for instance, this means that he has to catch a bubble. And then this means that he needs to raise his hand. So I'll remind Julian of the expectation by either going like this or like this to kind of signify to remember to raise your hand if you have something to share. I will also verbally say that as well if he does forget the hand signals, because like I said, these are new as well. And I found that these reminders have helped students and all remember the expectations before potential behavior problems occur. So lastly, my third strategy will be specific praising. So, like I said, I've noticed that Julian benefits from verbal praise. So, whenever he does demonstrate the expected classroom behavior, so instead of saying, "Oh, good job, Julian," I'll say, "I noticed how you raised your hand and you waited patiently. That helps everyone learn." So, I'll kind of change my wording a little bit. And sorry, lastly, I have another strategy. I also will be doing visual reminders. So I can also print out one of these and put it on his desk as a small little visual reminder that shows that he needs to raise his hand. Maybe I can AI a little picture of him raising his hand. So he knows what to do. And I feel like this will allow him to remain engaged during the lesson. And yeah, so these are the things that I implemented. I just kind of wanted to touch base with you because, like I said, it's very important for parent-teacher communication. And I'm very transparent with all my parents. So do you have any questions for me? Any feedback you would like to give? If I didn't explain anything, would you like me to go over it again? Please just let me know. I'm more than willing to share or clarify anything. But like I said, you guys have expressed greatly how much you will give your support, and as well as the support in the classroom. I would love to partner with you at home. So maybe we can practice taking turns, or you guys can practice taking turns during conversations, like playing games, encouraging Julian, "Hey, Julian, raise your hand during this game," or praising him for waiting his term at home so he knows the expectations that he's learning in school. But yeah, like I said, I'm very pleased with his progress. So the data that I collected and that I've seen in this classroom, I know, we're almost at the end of the school year and it's the final push, but I'm very pleased with this progress and it has showed steady improvement. And I truly believe that by continuing these strategies both at school and at home, that we'll see positive growth. So, like I said, thank you so much for coming and seeing me today, taking the time out of your day to discuss our sweet little Julian. I hope that I was able to clarify anything, and you have my number, so feel free to send me a text if you ever have a concern. Thank you so much.